Welcome back, everyone, and actually, welcome to something new. If you've been listening for a while, you'll notice a change. What was previously Marketing Genius Unpacked is now Marketing Pack Leaders. What's the reason? My consulting practice has officially been rebranded from Bit of Genius to Thunderwolf Consulting. And if Thunderwolf is about helping AI growth stage companies move the pack, then this show is about learning from the leaders who already are. So, welcome to Marketing Pack Leaders, where we unpack how product marketing, positioning, and go to market strategy drive revenue impact. I'm your host, Josh Porter, founder of Thunderwolf Consulting, where I help AI scale ups turn complex products into clear, differentiated stories that sales teams can actually execute. And today's guest fits perfectly into that mission. Today, we're tackling one of the most important and most misunderstood topics in product marketing, and that is having positioning that actually gets used. And to help us with that, I'm joined by Jennifer Sillars. Jennifer is a product marketing consultant and a go-to-market strategist who helps B2B tech companies turn complex features into buyer-centered value. With over a decade of experience, including roles at ARM and as a co-founder of Cosmic Strategy, she specializes in positioning, messaging, and aligning go-to-market execution to revenue outcomes. Jenn brings senior-level product marketing expertise to scale-ups, aiming to make their value obvious and irresistible to customers. Jenn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for the opportunity to geek out about positioning and go-to-market execution.
Absolutely. Well, let's start here. How do you know when positioning is truly sales ready versus just marketing ready?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's all about the buyer's mindset and thinking about what buyers need at every stage of their journey, right? So I think us as marketers, what we tend to do really well is do that really difficult piece of sparking interest in the first place and like getting eyes on us and getting people to start to consider us as a solution. But I think, and from my experience as a buyer as well, once you click that request a sales call, request a demo button, your head goes into a slightly different place and everything gets a bit real, right? And you're thinking, is this worth it? Do I have the time to actually implement this thing? Like, do I really understand what I'm buying? Like, all these objections start to come to mind immediately. So I think tackling those pieces is really important. And what I think traditional positioning misses a lot of the time. So big pieces like, why is this approach better than the alternatives? Why does this suit me as a buyer better than the alternatives? Does the value justify the pain of purchase? Because like, it's not easy to buy tech. Like at one point in time, I had almost £1 million budget, and I was looking at these point solutions that would have solved like a really nice, like concrete pain for me. And it wasn't even that expensive, so there was no budget blocker there. But I didn't end up buying them because I couldn't be bothered doing like the 9
Right.
onboarding stuff and justifying all these pieces. So like the pain of buying is real. And also that piece of like, will this decision hold up internally? So
Right.
there's just these pieces that a lot of the time we don't tackle all the tricky questions.
Yeah. It's if something's marketing ready, then yeah, you might have some good response in the market from people wanting to find out more. But if it's not sales ready, when you're actually having live conversations and the positioning doesn't address those live concerns, then it's not fully baked out. So I think you're totally right on that. If they're having these conversations and they're not able to really have a consistent narrative around how the product's positioned, especially overcoming the friction of buying something, then yeah, that can be an issue and deals can get lost that way.
Yeah, so easily because it's always easier not to buy than to buy.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's a great point. That's a great point because people will naturally, fall to the default. Just
Yeah,
I'm just not going to do anything. No decision. So, and that's where I think a lot of deals get stuck as just a no decision.
yeah,
So,
especially now when budgets are tighter than ever too.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think that's a really great way to kind of think about how positioning needs to impact not just the marketing but also sales as well. What are the most common breakdowns between positioning strategy and frontline sales execution in your experience?
Yeah, and I think it continues from what I was saying. It's that we've not fully thought about what the buyer needs to hear at that point. So a lot of the time, actually, a really simple problem why things are not being picked up is that it's what we've delivered to sales is just actually a bit too cringy for anyone to say out loud.
Uh-huh.
So, like, what lands in a headline isn't necessarily what lands in a conversation at a point where that salesperson is really trying to build trust and rapport and making like big, huge, grand statements. Like that gets eyes in an ad, but it kills your like trust and momentum there in that relationship. Um, so I think a lot of the time we don't do the work of translating it down into a one-to-one engagement level that's needed. Um, and that ties like directly into value as well, because quite often the value is pitched like just that wee bit too high. So we can make big statements about like we're leading the transformation in XYZ. Do you want to be part of this transformation? Like that sort of thing. Like no salesperson is going to say that, and no buyer really thinks of themselves that way either. So
Yes.
you need to be much more focused on like that person in front of you, that champion. What do they need to hear? And like I said, too often we are leaving some of the hardest, biggest decisions up to chance and letting individual salespeople just have to make these things up for themselves and see
Mm-hmm.
and we just end up with so much variability in this really key stage where we're having these initial conversations with an interested buyer.
Yeah. Yeah. And you bring up a good point about, when it comes to distinguishing marketing from sales, it's about the number of people you're trying to reach. Sales is one on one, much more intimate, and then marketing is about scale. And so you got
Mm-hmm.
to do these mass kind of communications. And so it can be tricky because those are different skills. That's why they're different functions. But
Yeah.
that's why it's all the more important to have that positioning from marketing in a coherent way so that every salesperson is going to have the same message, the same positioning, and are prepared to answer the questions in the same way, because if customers are getting different answers from different people, then that causes confusion, and then that
Mm-hmm.
can lose you your deal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. Having the ability to understand the buyer from their perspective, and then having a coherent message across marketing and sales is really going to help a lot of that. But also, I like what you said about being able to be, to translate and take, what the customer needs, take what the company has, and try to, bring that together. It's like marketing's got to, you have to be an interpreter. You have to kind
Mm-hmm.
of, you're speaking the company's language, but you also have to speak the customer's language.
Yeah. And I think we are actually good at that. And I mean, let's think about what positioning is in the first place. It's a strategy for influencing a certain group of people to think about you in a certain way. And when
Yes.
sales focused, and really what it always should be, is about why you deserve to win that deal, like why you deserve to win that market. So, like, the fundamentals should carry through to the sales conversation and sales execution, but it doesn't because, yeah, we're just like missing some wee gaps, and but these gaps are pretty big.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because you have to be able to, you have to, with positioning, manage perception. That's
Mm.
really what it's about. And I'm a big fan of the show Survivor, and that's really what it comes down to win the game. You have to manage perception. You have all the, these other players that you have to kind of filter through. And yes, you have to do good at challenges. Yes, you have to be able to do well around camp. But in the end, it's about perception management. And so it's very, very much what you're saying here is positioning at its core is about perception. How do people perceive you? It's not about how you perceive yourself as a company. It's about how your customers and prospects perceive
Yeah, and I think that's why ICP and defining ICP as part of your positioning is so, so, so important, and getting to the detail of the ICP that actually makes a difference. Because I think it's easy to lean back on like firmographics and industry a lot. I think tech loves an industry niche.
you.
Um,
Yes.
but there's other things that actually are what you need to lean into more, like buying triggers, like the actual pain, like actual jobs to be done as well. I think
Yeah.
we need to bring jobs to be done back a wee bit, because if it's software and any sort of B2B tech, they're literally using it as part of their job. So you actually
Yes.
have such an in already. Like there is a process there. There's a task that needs to be done. You're physically interacting with like how they complete that task. So I think that has to be so much more center to it, rather than these like bigger pieces like industry and firmographics. And it's funny because I feel like I've been doing this for like 10 years or something now. I don't know about you, but I never really spoke about ICP specifically for like the last few years. Like the
Yeah.
persona is forever, but
Yeah.
ICP specifically, I feel is newer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. And I like to say, you know, a lot of times people say ICP is ideal customer profile. And sometimes I think that gets confused with uh, a persona. And I think about ICP as the ideal company profile. So it's like that's your specific account. What's that particular company? What's the revenue? What's the series are they at? How many employees do they have? Those types of things. And then you have to think about the key buyer persona. And those are
Yeah.
the, those are your specific leads. Those are the people you're going to be engaging with. But yeah, I think you're right. It's marketing 101 is understanding your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't understand your audience unless you target that specific, understand and then target that ideal company profile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think with B2B, like the added complexity as well, and there's probably like some Venn diagram that I might end up doing on LinkedIn, it's just come to mind. But like ICP, for me at least, also includes your buying committee.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So that adds like this other like layer of weirdness and complexity to it.
Yeah, yes, you have to understand, like, and that's the whole thing about B2B versus B2C is B2C, you don't have to deal with one person, one decision maker, but with B2B, it's in a company and there's going to be a group of, 5 to 10 people making the decision on this. You have to convince all of them. However, as a marketer, you still have to target because if you're
Mm-hmm.
talking to multiple people, you may lose the message for the most important person who's the ultimate decision maker, and that decision maker may be because from somebody that the CEO tapped that like says that they want them to be this specific initiative champion of I need like a new sales enablement platform or something of that nature, whoever it is, or a new HR tool, and the chief HR officer or the head of HR is going to be in charge of that. But then they have to have this committee of procurement, legal, finance, and the like to be able to go through. And honestly, most of the time, that committee, the rest of those people besides the champion, are there to veto it. So that
Yeah.
champion's got to be there to really sell it.
Yeah. Because you're kind of just like an annoying task to them, because they're
Yes.
not going to see the benefit of it, and you can kind of play to like the bigger benefits, and obviously like roll up to company wide sort of stuff. But like ultimately, as a one to one person, yeah, you're you're just a task for them to do, and they'd rather not have to buy something. Um, yeah, it is an interesting thing with B2B. I do like B2B. This level of complexity like appeals to
Hmm.
me. It's a sequencing issue as much as anything, and I think that similar with tech and how much you have to communicate to even your champion, you have to make decisions about what comes first, like what's the
Yeah.
value you lead with, what's going to like pull them in, and then similarly, then as you go through the sales process as well, you're feeding to them the pieces of the value for their buying committee as well.
Yeah.
So you have to think about like the whole journey through to do it justice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that that model of working through buying committee, you ultimately have to pick that champion, and then that champion has to be the internal advocate to all those other people on the committee. And so you have to sell them first, and then the others come.
Yeah,
But you got to start with that primary decision maker.
definitely.
Awesome. All right. So I want to move on to signals. What signals tell you that adoption isn't happening, and how do you course correct?
Yeah. So there are a few signals. So I think the most obvious one that marketers see and that we complain about most often is that sales aren't using our materials. Like they're not using our deck. They're not using like even the one pagers they specifically requested. They're not getting used. They're
Right.
getting tweaks that you have not authorized. Like they're doing their own thing. I think that's a big indicator that you do have something missing that's they feel is needed for the conversation. Um, Similarly, when they stop coming to you as the expert and asking like your opinion on like the customer and the market, that's a huge warning signal for me.
Yeah.
Like the newbies when they're onboarding, if they're learning, you can see sometimes like a really slow onboarding when they're just kind of getting drip fed understanding of the customer by like talking to peers and like just having conversations within the sales team themselves instead
Yeah.
of them having like this core understanding from the beginning. Um, Beyond those pieces, early funnel conversion rates is a big one as well, especially from MQL through to ops, whatever kind of
Yes.
SQL, SAL you've got going on in your funnel. But when there's like really big drop off from MQL into that level of funnel, that's another one. And that's when you get the typical fights like leads aren't good enough from sales, same to marketing, and then marketing similarly throwing sales back under the bus saying like, oh, you can't sell to save your life sort of thing. So
Right.
it's sad
Yeah.
how often that infighting happens, especially when we're all against like really high targets as well. Like it's high pressure stuff, this sales and marketing piece. Like it's closer to revenue the more pressure, right?
Yes.
Um, and that's where like Finn fights about win loss and lack of clarity around win loss as well, I think is another indicator because for me, that points back to you didn't know why you should win in the first place. You didn't know what your argument to win was, so you don't
Sure.
know why
Yes.
it didn't hit. And then also churn, like fast churn or customers
Mm-hmm.
turning away like as soon as they possibly can. Because then there's again a mismatch between
Yes.
what they wanted, what they were sold, and the reality of the product. Like I think those are some pretty big, painful signals that are actually all too common.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think those are good to kind of think about. If the first thing is going to be something very internal. If they're not coming to you, the sales team isn't coming to you for guidance or direction on some of those sales pieces, the sales enablement pieces, then yeah, that's a problem. You're there to be this connective tissue between product and the sales team and the customer, honestly.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
some ways, you should probably know the customer better than the sales team who deals with them day in and day out. So Yeah, I think that's definitely a good signal. And then if they're just not using your content on top of that, then that shows that's a bit of an issue and they're not. I like how you said, even if they've asked for a specific one pager and then they don't use it, it's like that can be a little frustrating. And so that could be for multiple reasons, but you want to be able to make it as easy as possible for them to have access to it, but also that they understand it and then that they're continually reminded of it, that it exists. So that might be, through multiple workshops or email reminders or whatever it is that you are constantly on their radar. And hopefully it goes back to the first one is you've established a relationship enough to where they come to you on a repeated basis. So hopefully you've got that basis, but then there are also going to be some reminders that are really key, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because I think your point about we should know the customer even better than them. I think that is really important because if nothing else, we are getting or should be getting a broader perspective of the customer. So
yeah.
sales input so valuable, and we all wish that we could hear like every single sales call, right? Because we would learn
Yes,
everything. Like,
totally.
yeah.
Totally.
But we're also like we also have the benefit, like we're talking to product, we're seeing the literal reasons why these features are being created. Like that's a
Yeah.
level of insight that they don't have. You're also doing your own research about like trends in the market and like buyers in general, and from customer success level as well. You're seeing like how people are actually using the product, like what they're actually like having problems with. Like this culmination of all this constellation of points from different areas, like I think that's where we hold value, and that's what we should always be aiming for, and that's what will make them keep coming back to us, and they feel like we do actually have insight to offer that they don't have.
Yes. Yeah. And I like how you articulated that. It's bringing some of the customer insight along with the product insight because I had one leader call us product marketing the great in between.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta have some of the knowledge that comes from all those pieces and be able to package it in a way so that the salespeople can use it and the customers understand it.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And then I also liked what you pointed out about sometimes sales isn't able to articulate why they want something. And that's that can be an issue because you want to be able to repeat that. You want to be able to say, was it because we spoke about this particular feature, this pain point, or they like these parts of our offer? And having an understanding of why you win is as important as why you lose, because if you want to repeat that, you need to have that written down somewhere. You need to have that as fodder for other salespeople.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes we're scared to be prescriptive with sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should be a bit braver at those earlier stages because we should definitely allow sales to like build a rapport with that account, get into like the nitty gritty of what that account cares about. But at those early stages, and like say like the first proper sales conversation, you don't have any of that yet.
Yeah,
And so we should at that point, I think, be pretty set on the minimum, what I actually call minimal viable buyer understanding. So, like the key points you have to hit that is your articulation of why they should choose you, which
yeah,
again is your positioning strategy.
yes, yeah, yeah. I like how you said that. It's at the very beginning stages. You're not going to have all the information you need to get super custom. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to have a strong position at the beginning to kind of establish that foundation. And then that's the whole point of the discovery call is to get more information. But you need to come with something. You need to come with a point of view in order to
Mm-hmm.
get the conversation going.
Yeah, yeah. And that takes guts to like put a real line in the sand about this is the type of customer that we're best for. If you recognize yourself in this, we're the ones for you. It takes bravery, and sometimes probably that's we're shying away from that a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. Totally, totally. Awesome. Well, I think this has been super good to kind of see and understand a little bit more about your expertise in trying to help bring positioning into end of the line sales tactics that hopefully hit the customer and win customers over. So, with that, I'd like to go into our rapid fire round where I ask all of my guests the same questions and love to hear the different responses. And I think you'll have some, good insights here too. You ready for these rapid fire questions?
Already.
Awesome. All right. Well, first off, what's your favorite marketing tool?
Claude.
Oh, yeah? Tell
Claude
me
is
more about
life
that.
now. And Claude Cowork now is I'm
Yes.
putting all my efficiency goals and hopes for this year onto Claude Cowork.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah, definitely that those new capabilities definitely make it help automate a lot of things for you, especially as a knowledge worker. So that's that's
Mhm.
that's awesome. What is, in your opinion, the most underrated skill in product marketing?
Business acumen. I
Tell me
think
more.
I think that engagement with because I think positioning strategy is just your fundamental business strategy. It's why you
Hmm.
exist in the world, why you deserve to win. It's the center of everything. So, from what I see, the PMMs that have done amazingly and who have that consistent seat at the leadership table, they understand the level that they should be playing at, and they engage with all the fundamentals of the business, or at least have an interest in like the commercials and the product, and all the pieces come together. Because I do think that positioning strategy is fundamental business strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, you understand your function for sure, but you need to kind of go higher level than that. You have to have the overall business understanding, business acumen to kind of put the context together. So yeah, I
Mhm.
think that's great. Absolutely. What's the biggest mistake to avoid in product marketing?
I think waiting to be asked opinions. I
Mm-hmm.
like we were saying too, like we should be amassing that wider view of the customer. We should be embodying that voice of the market and just bringing it in wherever we can. Like we need to lead.
Yes. Yeah. I remember there was one lady who said, "Don't wait for permission to lead, just lead."
Yeah,
So, and
I
and
like
that also ties in with actually listening to this at a product marketing alliance summit a few years ago, which is happening right now in New York, as a matter of fact. Uh, they are basically saying how you just need to have an opinion. You need to assert an opinion.
that.
It
Hmm.
doesn't matter if you're wrong. Like in the end, it doesn't really matter if you're wrong
Yeah.
because at least you're showing you've got some point of view. And so I think having that point of view that gives at least some people something to react to because then if you don't have something for people to react to, then in a way you kind of don't exist.
Oh no, absolutely. I love like a straw man argument. Like just bring something to the table. It's the only way to get things moving, especially with senior leaders. Like they time is precious. You want like things to be moving forward. You need to lead it.
Yes. And one more thing I'll add to that that I think was interesting. One boss told me, he said, he's like, people may agree or disagree with your opinion, but when you don't have an opinion, they don't respect you. They won't respect you with that. So, I think that's really key. It's like some people are afraid of not being agreed with, but in a way, I'd rather be disagreed with than ignored
Oh,
without respect.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think anyone who has been in those meetings with senior leaders, like it it's fights and arguments non-stop. Like that is actually the norm. Like everyone's expected to be the voice for their function and put
Yeah,
their argument forth.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right, next question is what's one thing you wish you knew when you started?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I wish I knew more about sales actually. and like the reality of the sales. I don't think it was until I had to do it for myself this last year that I fully got what the issues were. So
Yeah.
I would have been an amazingly more helpful marketer if I'd figured that out sooner.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that makes sense. You gotta that's definitely something we all have something that we're like, oh, after a few years of experience, like, yes, we should have done that, but live and learn.
Yeah.
Um, okay. And last and most important question is, what's your favorite podcast?
Okay, I could answer this one for about half an hour. I love a podcast. I think probably the one that I would want everyone who's listening to this, if they haven't listened to it already, the Acquired podcast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, good. So especially they go through the stories of like all the biggest companies in the world and how they got to where they are and what was their moat and what was the behind the scenes of it. And they've got a lot on the kind of like tech, like historic tech companies that now that
Yeah.
we still see today, like more on the chip side and all that. So it's always just so interesting. Beyond that, I love a true
Oh,
crime
yes.
podcast. All of them, all
Yes.
the time. I know we like funny one as well. Like last podcast on the left is it's like a dark humor, like
Interesting. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, those are some good ones. I've heard a couple clips of Acquired, and then True Crime's always interesting, and then that last one's I'll have to check that out too. So those are good. Those are good recommendations. Like some that are business focused and some that we have to have a life outside of business. So those are good to be good to listen to. All right, Jen. Well, this was fantastic. Positioning only moves revenue, and it only matters if you move revenue. And I really think that you have grounded it in its execution. So thanks for explaining how you try to make positioning real for salespeople, and thanks for being on the show today.
thanks for having me.
You bet. And everyone else, thanks for listening. This is Marketing Pack Leaders, where we explore how modern product marketers and go-to-market leaders build differentiation that actually converts. You can find this episode on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. I'm Josh Porter for Thunderwolf Consulting. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.